Good afternoon, and holiday. The Committee on General Government Operation and Appropriations is now called to order. Today is Thursday, June 22nd. The time now is 2:03. In compliance with the open government law, the notices for this public hearing were posted on the Governor of Guam Public Notice Portal, KGTF, PBS, Channel 12, and disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets on Monday, June 12th, and then with a change one, and then on Thursday, June 15th. The agenda today is the budget hearing, the budget on Department of Public Works. In reference to Bill 26-37 COR, Committee on Rules by request of I Magaʹhågan Guåhan, the Governor of Guam, in accordance with the Organic Act of Guam, an act making appropriation for the operation of the executive branch of the Gov of Guam for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2024, making other appropriations and establishing miscellaneous and administrative provisions relative to the Department of Public Works. At this time, I ask the members of the Department of Public Works panel to please rise and be placed under oath by the Sergeant Arm.
Please raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, you all affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Yes. Mr. Chair, under the oath, you may proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. The conduct of the budget hearing shall be as follows. Please provide my legislative staff with any document for photocopying and distribution. Panel members are asked to remain in the room for the questions. For questions or for additional testimony may be desired by members of the committee. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in removal from the budget hearing. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum will be restricted from participating and will be escorted from the room. When you speak, please make sure the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. Please state your name and your title for the record. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues that have joined me this afternoon. I have Speaker Therese Terlai, and I have Senator Amanda Shelton. I'd like to ask Mr. Arreola and Ms. Ibanez, we'll start with the director, to present their budget. But at the end of your presentation, if you can please tell us all about the recovery effort that's going on, okay, so that we can pretty much come to ease of what's going on, or even questions of what's happening. All right, we also have Senator Brown that has joined us this afternoon. Mr. Arreola, please, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My name is Vince Arreola. I'm the director at the Department of Public Works. And with me today is the Deputy Director, Ms. Linda Ibanez. She's the Deputy Director at the Department of Public Works. We're very pleased to be before you, Senators, and the committee to present our FY 2024 proposed budget. If I may, I'll read and then I'll go into my presentation. Afternoon, Senator San Agustin and members of the committee, again, on behalf of the hardworking men and women at the Department of Public Works, I am pleased to present our proposed FY 2024 budget. DPW's total budget request amounts to $21.3 million, an increase of $2.0 million from last fiscal year. In the past few years, DPW received two major funding sources that was approved for legislative appropriations for our general operational costs. The funding sources were the Territorial Educational Facilities Fund, TEF, and the Guam Highway Fund. As in previous fiscal years, DPW's operational costs related to bus operations will be fully funded by the TEF. With the enactment of Public Law 36-105, other divisions to include administrative services, highways, capital improvement projects, transportation maintenance, and building maintenance will be funded by the General Fund and Guam Highway Fund. DPW is prepared to work within our given budget levels. With the additional funding coming from federal grants and programs, DPW will be quite busy with numerous projects and activities. The agency continues to be diligent in following all health and safety protocols to ensure our government officers, employees, and customers are protected to the greatest extent possible. In terms of our statutory responsibilities, we are responsible for providing government-wide services such as daily school bus transportation service for DOE and private school students, maintenance of the school buses, various road construction and earth-moving heavy equipment and other light vehicles, developing and maintaining Guam's roadways to include highway construction, flood mitigation, and road maintenance, managing the Government of Guam's capital improvement projects, which also entails permitting and regulating Guam's private construction activities, and maintaining GovGuam buildings, facilities, and equipment. We have 6 divisions within DPW: our Administrative Services Division, Building Maintenance, Bus Operations, Capital Improvement Projects, Highways, and Transportation Maintenance. At this point, I'd like to continue my presentation of the budget through our PowerPoint presentation. The DPW's overall budget request, as I mentioned, is $21.3 million. Last year we had a budget of 19.2, so we've got a variance here of a little over $2 million. Next, please. In terms of object class, total salaries and benefits amounts to about $14 million. Under contractual services, we've got 3.6. We have budgeting for supplies and materials at 1.5, and then various equipment, drug testing, utilities, and capital outlay of about $210,000, totaling 21.33. I'd like to add that, you know, with the ARP funding that we've had over the last year, with various grants, as I mentioned earlier, we've been able to augment a lot of our operational costs, our capital outlay costs, capital improvement projects. So we've been able to use those funds to assist with our budget. Again, as I mentioned, our enabling statute calls for schools transportation, highway construction and maintenance, enforcement of building codes, highway safety, CIPs, building facilities maintenance, administrative and financial support. And as I mentioned before, these are the different divisions within DPW. Just as in a bird's eye view, we are responsible for these following programs and issues. We've got over 160 miles of primary roads and road shoulders, over 800 miles of secondary roads, streets, and public easements, 60-plus bridges, 88 ponding basins. In our school bus program, we run 120-plus school buses. We also are responsible for the administration and payment of over 16,000 public street lights. We handle all the government-funded capital improvement projects, highway maintenance, building permits. We oversee all the Government of Guam line agency vehicles, and we also run the coral pit in Dedido, and we have to be in compliance with federal mandates for ponding basins, outfalls, and rivers leading into the ocean. Our Administrative Services Division provides administrative, financial, and budget management, personnel support to all programs. Responsibilities include basic, again, administrative services, budget, finance, accounting, human resources, inventory, property management, grants management, legislative review, research program, and general planning. Our building maintenance section basically takes care of maintenance services, repairs, and construction services throughout all the Government of Guam buildings, to include DPW, the Governor's Office, Government House, DYA, DOC, and other government buildings. Bus operations, as I mentioned earlier, we provide transportation for public and private students. They also provide emergency evacuations and other busing services as authorized by the Governor and or myself. This year, in the past year, we partnered with Guam Department of Labor to engage in a bus driver boot camp. This was very, very successful. I think we had the first number of graduates totaling 9. What happens is the Department of Labor vets these applicants that meet minimum requirements. They go through a boot camp up at GCC, I believe. Then they apply at DPW. We eventually bring them on, and we do hands-on training and experience in terms of school bus driving and safety as well. Besides being on-the-job training, of course, they're shadowed by current bus drivers, experienced bus drivers, knowing the rules of the road and all the issues involved in mechanical and logistical issues involved in the school bus itself. Just to let you know, we are also providing uniforms for bus drivers so that school officials and the public can easily identify bus drivers, personnel. And let me just stop there. I'm sure you know, you read in the paper, we had a couple issues with two bus drivers who had tested positive. We are dealing with that accordingly, and I'm just like you. I'll come straight out. I'm very displeased with what happened, and we are coming down very strong on it. As a matter of fact, we had another round of drug testing in May, I believe, and I believe two tested positive for that. So we're gonna ramp up this drug testing, keeping on top of them, making sure that they sign out appropriately for the buses. We're going to do thorough physical reviews of the bus drivers themselves before they get on the wheel, and I could talk about that later also. In addition, I believe I mentioned this earlier, DPW received a $9.8 million grant for electric school buses and 25 charging stations, so we're real pleased about that. In terms of CIP division, they provide professional and technical services for our government infrastructure projects and technical support to the community if needed. They review and assess building plans, provide construction estimates, and evaluate the conditions of current government buildings for renovations, repairs, and/or expansion. Currently, CIP is overseeing a total of 45 construction projects, and I can go through that later on. Our highways division, these folks provide the management and administration of all Guam Highway and the Village Streets program to include planning, designing, and construction of all roadways and capital improvement projects regarding the roads. They maintain, repair, and restore Guam's highway system for primary, secondary, and collective roads, village streets, bridges, flood control systems, ponding basins, guardrail, traffic directional signs, street names, speed limit signs, and so on and so forth. They also do water quality analysis to ensure compliance with GEPA standards and in-house design of minor highway systems. I think I mentioned in the previous hearing I was here, the new kid on the block, so to speak, in terms of the work that we do under highways is flood control, erosion control, and landslides. With the weather that we've been having over the last 2 years, I think we can all agree we haven't had a dry season in the last 2 years. So the rain has really done a number on the hillsides, the road sides. A lot of our roads have eroded. We've had some huge erosion problems, and I can speak to that later as well in terms of our ability to recover from this current typhoon. Under transportation maintenance, they handle the maintenance and repair of all the department's vehicles, buses, heavy equipment. They also serve as the custodian for all the line agency vehicles. Now, Senators, I'd just like to touch on some of the major projects that we're handling at DPW. The first one, of course, is the Village Street Paving Program. And before I begin, Dunkaluna Sidus Mausi for last year's appropriation of over $10 million to this Village Streets paving program. As you see in the reports that we turn into you, as you see in a lot of the villages, we are spending this money. And I'll show you, you'll see in this page right here. But before I go on, I just want to thank you, Senators, for that appropriation. It is well needed, is well deserved in the public, and we hope that we continue to receive this appropriation, if not more, every year. Again, the way this works, especially for Village Street Paving Program, We've got a contract with Guam's only contractor for paving roads. We do a lot of the site preparation for them. If there's any milling needed, they'll come in and mill the existing road, and they'll come in and pave it. It's a hand-in-hand construction, and it's very fast, very efficient, and so far it's working out really well. So if you'll see in the table there, what we've had total appropriations was an appropriation of about a little over $14 million. To date, we've expended $4 million, but in terms of work orders, we've got $9.5 million of work orders that are already in the hopper. So in other words, contractor has been given the go-ahead to proceed with these projects. I think just in the last year, in this upcoming year, we've got, by the end of the year, we should pave 31 and 39, 68, if not 69 roads should be paved by the end of the year. So if you could see, with the work orders at $9.5 million, we've got an available balance of about $677,000 just for this fiscal year alone. So you can see we are, in fact, spending it. Under capital improvement projects, as I mentioned earlier, we are overseeing 45 CIP projects. Total cost is over $30 million. Some of these are ARP funded, some of these are DOI funded, some of these are from different agencies that we oversee their construction. And just to name a few, these are some of them throughout the different villages and in some of the other agencies, such as the Lara housing repair that we did for Guam Housing. I'd like to also mention that we're doing the design for the Veterans Cemetery new crypts, so that should ease some of the overcrowdedness at Veterans. And we're also doing a design for the Department of Corrections expansion as well. I wanted to touch also on the ARPA funding that we've received, and these are just some of the things specific to DPW that we are spending the ARPA funding. We are renovating the bus operations main office at DPW. That's an old wood and tin office that frequently floods. We're also going to renovate all the satellite offices, the bus satellite stations. I believe we've got 7, if not 8 of them throughout the island. We're going to renovate and upgrade the transportation maintenance and work bay areas. We have the main warehouse in the back. We're going to renovate that. That was damaged even further by the typhoon. We're designing right now, and we're going to construct a building permit storage area for maps, building permits, a lot of paper and discs. We're also using a lot of the money there for the design and construction of new infiltration trenches and chambers. As I mentioned earlier, the new kid on the block right now for us is flooding throughout the island, in the villages, out the villages, wherever there's roadways, wherever there's residential homes, and just the like. We're really experiencing a lot of flooding problems throughout the island. And the problem is there's no more government space or government land, especially within residential areas, to put, say, a ponding basin. So what we're doing within government easements is we're constructing and installing these infiltration trenches and chambers that seem to be working very well with some that we've already installed. I think I mentioned this at one of our previous hearings. We're procuring heavy equipment, compactors, excavators, trailers, tractor trailers, dozers. I think we just received a payloader a couple months ago, an excavator, some heavy equipment. But again, these were ordered, I think, when ARPA first came out. So they're just starting to arrive, and that's just it's a production issue in the U.S. mainland. We're also looking at a CCTV surveillance system and additional lighting for the compound, because the compound at night is really dark, and we share the compound with Guam Mass Transit, and we just want to ensure the safety of the buses and the employees there. Just to talk a little bit about our federal grants, this is with Federal Highway. We've got ongoing projects at Route 5, Route 14 just started, and Route 14B. Those are all in the construction phase. We just finished Waisengsong, and what was the other one we just finished? Waisengsong. Oh, and Route 1, the resurfacing of Route 1 last year. So these are some of the constructions and improvements we'll be doing this coming year. Route 10 safety improvements, that's up there from Mingilo to Chalampago. We're going to do some traffic signal upgrades, some crosswalks, things of that nature. That's been a fairly dangerous area for pedestrians. Traffic signal upgrades throughout the island, pavement striping and marking, guardrail repair and replacement. We're going to do island-wide pavement repairs along Route 10 also, similar to what we did on Route 8, where we just did major cutouts at degraded areas of the roadway. We'll cut that out, dig it up, replace the base, put concrete, and then repave it. So it'll be just like how we did Route 8. And then under the NHTSA grant that we have, our Office of Highway Safety, we work very closely with Guam Police Department and Guam Fire Department. We work very closely with DOE in terms of education, but you can see the list right there of a lot of the educational issues that we do. And we'll continue with the DUI checkpoints. We'll continue with radar enforcement, and just a lot of traffic safety programs to ensure driver safety. I'd like to turn you just some of the specific goals that we want to accomplish in addition to our standard operating procedures and duties that we have. Under administrative services, we're gonna ramp up we're looking to ramp up the training to ensure all employees are current with credentials to perform certain duties, and this is going to be department-wide. You know, it could be office work, it could be technical training for computers, technical training for GIS, and things of that nature. Under bus operations, we want to ensure that school bus drivers maintain their annual recertification. We're highly requiring supervisors to conduct physical and visual inspection of bus drivers to determine fit for duty status. I think I talked a little bit about that. We've had 2 counseling sessions, meetings with bus driver supervisors, and it's not just a matter of checking off that the bus is ready to go, the tires are good, whatever, is they will stand in front of the bus driver, talk to that bus driver, and ensure that that bus driver's eyes are clear, he is walking properly, he or she is walking properly, and they're fit to take the wheel of the bus. I mentioned earlier, we're going to conduct random drug tests more periodically. We'll coordinate with Department of Labor to continue the bus drivers boot camp program, and we're working with our own Office of Highway Safety that I just mentioned to provide classroom training for our bus drivers on the influence of DUI and driver and passenger safety. Under building construction and facilities maintenance, the main thing that we're really looking to do is to augment their staffing for all types of technical needs for electrical, plumbing, carpentry, and HVAC. Under capital improvements, as I mentioned, we've got 45 projects throughout the island. This has taken a real toll on us. We've got a staff of, I believe, 6 engineers that are overseeing the construction. We act as construction manager for all of those. So that's a lot of projects for us to handle. But we'll continue that, continue to stay on top of it. we are still doing the assessment on the backlog of construction projects that are currently ongoing to see if there's going to be any delays and if there's going to be any cost overruns on these construction projects that are in the middle of construction. And then we're going to move, because there's still a lot of construction projects that are coming in from not just our in-house, but from other departments. So we'll move on the invitation for bids. And then with our highways department, we want to ensure the upgrades of our roadways and construction improves, the maintenance of our roadways improves, ponding basins, flood controls, and again, soil erosion and landslides is going to be a real priority for us. Of course, recruitment of staff happens throughout DPW. It's you know, I always thought at one point we'd be able to at least get our vacancies down to a controllable 10 or 15. We're still at the 40, 45 or 46 number, so that's still quite a bit. I do want to mention we're looking at some product that's fairly new on the market. There's similar products that are on the market, but we've got a new product that just came through our desk that allows us the use of the milled material that we're using from the previous construction projects. It's a matter of mixing it and using it for potholes and road degradation that lasts quite a bit, almost as long as hot mix. So it's epoxy based, it's resin based. So we'll try that out, and hopefully by next year I'll have a report on what it looks like and how it's acting. Under TM, we want to make sure that all our mechanics are trained and certified. We want to enter into a partnership with GCC and/or the Department of Labor apprenticeship program, and definitely increase efficiency time on repairs of equipment. We're doing a much better job of getting the parts into the mechanics, so they don't sit around, you know, waiting for parts. So we've been a lot more efficient in parts acquisition. Senators, that's basically all I have to present for our budget. We sincerely hope that we have your support in passing this budget for DPW. As I've always said, we are extremely busy at DPW. That's why it's just myself and Linda here. We've got all the division heads that are out in the field as we speak. We're still recovering from Typhoon Mawar, and that's going to take quite a while. It's going to take several months. That's just the nature of our job. Roadways, debris cleanup, and the like. Yeah. Thank you very much, Senators. Look forward to your support. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Ariel. I'd like to also recognize the oversight chair of your department, Senator Kinata is here. But, Vince, can you give us an overall of the progress going on with the recovery? Just talk about what's going on, how it started, where you're at, and so that the people of Guam that are watching and listening can at least know there is movement, there is some light at the end of the tunnel, even though some of them are. There is light, I know that. I've seen the clearance. But it's hearing it from you folks explain exactly what happened, what's going on, where you're at now.
Okay.
Because they see a lot of debris, Tidzan and everywhere.
Yeah.
They need to know what role you guys play and who may be behind, not catching up and staying with you guys. Like solid waste. We see some trash out there, and I know that's not DPW's role. I see some things out there that there's another role that somebody else is supposed to play. And I want to hear it from you. The roles you play, so we know where we need to point the finger at.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator. I wish I could speak to the water and power, but I can't. So I'll speak to the road and debris cleanup, household waste, and the repair of some of our roads. But as I mentioned in the hearing a couple weeks ago, our primary role immediately after the typhoon, actually before the typhoon, is we had all our heavy equipment staged at numerous areas throughout the island. Most importantly, our hospitals was the priority, getting access to the 3 hospitals, Naval Hospital, Guam Memorial, and Guam Regional. So we had equipment staged in Tamuning and Agana and up in Derido, ready to hit the road to make sure that we cleared the roads from those hospitals out to Marine Drive, out to Route 8, Route 10, Route 16, major thoroughfares, so that once traffic starts and emergency vehicles start, those roads would be clear for them to get to the hospital for health and safety reasons. Once we cleared those, and when I say clear, we only pushed the debris to the side. We didn't do any debris pickup until about 2 weeks later. We focused on clearing the roadways. We also worked with the mayors for the village streets. We basically thought we had first dibs at all the rental equipment, but then we worked with the mayors, we worked with the governor, and we decided that rental of backhoes and dump trucks would go to the village mayors so that they can do what they need to do within their villages. So they've been really diligent, and they've been really great about helping us with debris cleanup, with village streets clearing, and so on and the like. So right after that, we were able to procure our own set of debris heavy equipment, basically backhoes and dump trucks, some excavators, and some payloaders to assist with our debris cleanup. About 10 days after the storm, we started to go into some of the high area villages in Tamuning, Derido, Jigo. We just finished Asan, I believe. We're in PD. We were in Chalampago. Where else? Sinahanya. We finished Sinahanya. And then in addition to the village, we're also manning and operating the main transfer sites. Ipa Point, Tizan, Derido and Wistig Road, and just those three, right? Right. Yeah. We're also assisting all the mayors with their specific village sites, because every village, I believe, with the exception of Santa Rita, has a disposal site. So we're assisting them as needed, mostly with pushback, just to push back and help them keep distance between the different piles. So where we are now, right now, is we're in villages. We have about 10 crews that are out throughout the island. We're doing some park cleanup because working with GVB, they expect tourists, especially from Japan, to start coming. So we've worked diligently with Parks and Rec to get the two parks down in Tumon, the Agana Paseo, the Plaza de España, and I think there might be a couple other parks that I'm missing. But we're working to get those parks done, and they should actually be done by this weekend. But you'll see us in all the villages. We're assisting mayors wherever possible. We're taking all the debris. Oh, and I must mention, we're also working with the Guam Army National Guard. They have been assigned to clean the debris at all the Guam DOE schools. So that's a mission-specific duty for them. They've got 40-some schools, and they'll work on that. So that takes us away from the schools. All the debris will be taken to the disposal sites. We are waiting for, unfortunately, we're still waiting for the procurement on air curtain burners and these mulchers and grinders for the main disposal sites. And the thinking there is whatever is burned will turn to ash. That'll be used by farmers. Whatever we grind up, that'll be turned to mulch. That'll be used by farmers or residents alike. So yeah, I read one of the specs on one of the responses. I think it's something like 5,000 or 50,000 cubic yards can be turned into like 200 cubic yards. It's a huge ratio of mulching that the green waste into mulch. So that's going to really help us tremendously with the piles that you see currently see today. I think part of the good part in It's taken a little bit time, but I think part of the good part is it's no longer green. It's called brown waste, right? So it's composted already. It's a little bit less, but that bad part is, and that's why we have 24/7 security at all the sites. We want to make sure that no vandalism occurs there, no one sets it on fire, and things of that nature. So that's pretty much, well, plus, you know, we have our bus drivers. We're out of school, so we have bus drivers assisting Seabees, Air Force, and the Navy. I think it's, what's it called, the RISE program. They're out there repairing roofs and putting new roofs on tin roofs that blew away at residents who applied for assistance with FEMA. We have bus drivers who are delivering food to the needy. We have, you know, this, I think one of our biggest challenges right now is the illegal dump sites that are popping out throughout the island. It's depressing because, and it's shameful because we established these sites for people to come in and put their waste. Maybe not we did it for 2 weeks for the household waste, you know, the food and whatever. And then Guam Solid Waste stopped after 2 weeks. But in terms of other household goods, green waste, metallic waste, you know, those sites are open. But yet we still have individuals, you know, creating illegal dump sites. And when it gets on our easements, it gets on the roadway, it becomes a hazard. We've got a detour from our regular work in the villages, at the waste sites, at the approved waste sites, to go and remove those. I think we had a crew that was up in Dedido today. I don't know if they're done, but I understand it was a pretty serious. It's a pretty serious dump site, yeah, we need to stop that right quick because it's a health hazard to everybody. Linda, you want to add anything about the rest of our crew? Yeah, yeah.
Can you identify the place in Dedido? Is that on Swamp Road or where? Anywhere specific in Dedido?
Dollar subdivision?
Oh, by Estumbo area then.
Yeah, yes.
Estumbo.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Where are you at with FEMA? Because FEMA said that, you know, they're out to help, and I know you're spending a lot of funds that you normally wouldn't spend at this pace.
Yes.
And how's the response been? Because I know the governor's office is coordinating all of it, but I'm just curious because you're going to be spending a big chunk of whatever money you wanted to spread until the end of the year that you had to spend right away, and because of all the heavy equipment. And I know that you prefer to have more heavy equipment so you can anticipate the worst case, because there's still more to come, and we're still early on the we're not even in typhoon season yet. Yeah,
we're still months out from cleaning up. Let me just say, senators, that prior to the typhoon, we all the managers sat down, and we just basically directed them. We will have 100%. Our goal is to have 100% reimbursement for everything that we spend that's typhoon related. There's a set process. We're all familiar with the process. We've all gone through this. The biggest issue with FEMA reimbursement, for any type of reimbursement, typhoon reimbursement, is documentation. Documentation. We've been excellent at that. Linda here attends 10 o'clock meetings daily with FEMA. I attend the 2 p.m. meetings with FEMA and the governor. So there's a hardcore coordination and collaboration to make sure that everything that we do is spot on for reimbursement. We follow all the DLAN tickets that come out. Everything that we do has a DLAN number on it. It's got different sheets for date, time, place, route, driver number, license number, company, name of the company, or DPW vehicle. All the information is there, and we are not falling behind. We are up to date. Linda can give you some numbers on where we are with fuel, with some of the rentals, and things of that nature. But we are as diligent as we can be to make sure that we get every single penny back from FEMA that we're really that we should be entitled to. We understand. I've been through this before. We've all been through this before. And like I said, it's documentation.
Do you have a dollar amount, a rough estimate?
Where
10
we're at
million,
right now?
20 million? What?
Of what we've spent to date.
Correct.
Fuel costs about 100. Go ahead.
Fuel cost is about 100,000. Rental of equipment is up to 500,000. That's just rental, does not include our labor. So we're close to 70,000 with our labor. That includes highway maintenance and bus operations.
Okay, what would be the roll-up total so far?
So we're looking at maybe 1 million.
About $1 million only? Oh, okay, it's
Today,
not too
no,
bad then.
No. And at the beginning, Senator, but the very first meeting right after the typhoon, when they asked, they went to all the departments, what is immediately needed? I told them, I said, we need 20 dump trucks, 20 backhoes, 2 payloaders, about 50 chainsaws. We gave them the whole list. But the way FEMA works is they source it locally first. They did what they could. I think at the most we were able to get 10 dump trucks. But as I understand, they've exhausted the local pool. So we're working with them to have them literally bring in the equipment. And I don't, it doesn't really matter to me after the restoration, whether we keep it or FEMA keeps it in their warehouse for another time. Doesn't matter. We just need it because I can see ourselves going maybe another 8 to 10 months of cleaning the island. I think it's going to take that long.
All right, thank you. I'd ask the Oversight Chair, Senator Canante, you have any questions?
No, I just really wanted to first and foremost thank all the guys out there and boys and girls and men and women out there helping respond in all the relevant issues to Mawa, right? I don't think it's going to happen overnight. No house was built, no empire was built overnight. So obviously a lot of us are certainly in a point of, or in a state of discomfort, whether it be power, water, not being accessible immediately, internet services, not everyone can go on TikTok. So I think, I feel that we are all experiencing a lot of discomfort in this time of, disaster. It is a disaster. But it shows the best and the worst of everyone. I just came from the illegal dump site up in Estumbo. It's ridiculous. We're going through people's trash, and it's not even about malware. This is just people's regular household trash. There's a lot of debris that had nothing to do with malware. So, I hear you guys' concerns. The illegal dumping, it's been an issue. It's not like we haven't tried to address it. I mean, we've been to Tengisan, probably you can go there 10 times a year and you still wouldn't hit everything. Because these people are also probably being business owners. I don't even know their business, they probably don't even pay taxes, but quote unquote, they grab a trailer, $50, one load. And it's ridiculous. The amount of trash that we just got over this typhoon in Baby Dandan all over the island. You got Dandan Timoni, you got Dandan. I mean, I'm referring to Dandan because that's where the main landfill is right now. So all of these staging sites, it's ridiculous. I'm not saying that Typhoon Mawar didn't do much devastation on our island. It is. It's a huge disaster. But I think a lot of people just really need to take a proactive approach, stop with this illegal dumping, and help build our island together. Yes, we want the government services to be 5-star. We want everyone's trash to be picked up today and not tomorrow, but we're really limited resources. We didn't buy 50 dump trucks. We didn't buy 50 backhoes because if we did, we'd be operating a deficit. And it would be irresponsible for us to be burdening our generation and generation after that with a deficit of useless equipment. So, I hear their concerns. I know a lot of the guys out there didn't have a good Father's Day. I mean, they were working to restore power, water, and infrastructural support. And again, we're really acting like spoiled brats at this point because we could have been a lot worse. Flash flood in Florida, 218 people were dead. Souls dead. We lost no one on Guam. I'm not saying that our situation here is not imperative. It is. It's paramount that we respond swiftly and as agile as possible, but we also have to be realistic with the response. It could have been a lot worse. Power poles could have been on the main road. Main lines could have been burned out, and we would no one would have power. I think we had power back on quite significantly. Water, it's going to take time for the gravity pull to push out the water wells. I have 4 water tanks across my house. Guess what? I didn't get water for 2-3 weeks. So we share the burden. I've also lived in a tin roof house. I know how it feels to be homeless. Literally. It sucks. So, I just want to make sure that you guys are getting a lot of comments out there, a lot of heat that we're not doing enough. But I also want to recognize that you guys are, doing whatever you guys can do humanely and with the resources you have. But these people who are continuously dumping out there and ravaging our island are also wasting our resources when we have to relocate the trash. And that's unfortunately the reason why I'm late, is because I was up there at Astumbo trying to help the guys, Deputy Mayor's office, and the quarry pit operators and the contractors really remove debris. And it's not organized debris, it's just trash. And it's not green waste or brown waste. I hope EPA finds the people we took pictures of their medication and all their records, because I'm very excited to see all of this information pop up in their mail. These people should be fined. So, I am your oversight chair. I'm doing whatever I can possible. I'm hopeful that we can get reimbursed for all the money we've been exhausting with FEMA, but obviously, it's a disaster. We have to absorb the hits where we unfortunately have to. But again, I thank you guys for all your hard work, and I'm hopeful that we can get recovery done as soon as possible. I know you guys have multiple oversights. You guys have been working time and over again, right, to try to ensure that we have a good response. But you cannot do anything if you don't have the resources. So it's also a reality check for us to have 1,000 people working in Pangsongma at DPW versus now, right? We don't want 1,000 people because we think they're not doing anything. Could have been true. I wasn't born in that time. I'm only 26, but in the relevant situation right now, we've also noticed that there's a 911 issue, right? We've telecom issue. Everyone's just a little bit uncomfortable. We have to deal with it. We will get there. We have to rebuild our island. So at the end of this, I think President JFK said it best. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. But in the local sentiment, we have JFK Islanders here, but they didn't make the slogan correct, I guess. Ask not what your island can do for you, but what you can do for your island. We really need to work together as an island leaders, and I call on all our private and government employees out there, whoever you are, do whatever you can. Help us rebuild our island, because it's not about us. It's not about us here. It's not about DPW. It's not about the governor, who's in, who's out. It's about all of us. So again, I thank you guys for your hard work, and my office remains ready to support in whatever way possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator. And if I can, Mr. Chairman, I forgot to mention that as part of, you just reminded me, as our island counterpart, Honolulu, we received 6 pallets of traffic signal parts and supplies to restore a lot of the traffic signals that you see up there. And we also had two traffic signal technicians who arrived last week. I believe they leave this Saturday. So they would have been here for a full 7, if not 8 days, assisting us in putting our traffic signals together. And so that's what you see out there. I think we only have like 2, if not 3, that are not functioning, and that's basically because of lack of GPA power. Those that aren't on, they're either awaiting power or a smaller generator. And right now, the island is out of smaller generators. FEMA is supposed to be sourcing them from us. The generators that FEMA has are all like 25 kW and higher. We just need the little household 8 or 10,000 to power the traffic signals. But kudos and thank you very much to the individuals from Honolulu that came to assist us. They're still here, and That was coordinated by our counterparts at FHWA who are in Honolulu and the governor of the state of Hawaii.
All right, thank you. Senator Amanda, did you have any questions?
Thank you very much, Director, Deputy Director, for being here today, and of course to your team for all the work that you've been doing in response to Marwar. And the work that you do throughout the year. We know that you are a critical Government of Guam agency. I wanted to touch on the personnel response for Marwar. I know you mentioned a labor cost at $70,000 for the use of the rental equipment. Can you tell us how much in overtime, and is this already going to be covered by your FY 2023 budget? Or are you expecting to need more in overtime pay to cover 2023, this response time?
So far, we have been running only when the trucks are available, which is up to 7 p.m. So usually the guys work for an additional 4 hours. Saturday and Sunday is the most that we do in overtime. So far, our budget is covering our overtime. So we seem to be working well on that. So basically, it's just our weekends. And so that's what we've been working on. But like for the equipment rentals, we try to keep it not going over overtime. I don't know, equipment rental is really expensive. It's a high commodity now with all these rentals. Even FEMA's sourcing it off island also. So we're managing our overtime, and hopefully as weeks go by, we'll decrease our overtime.
Okay, and in your budget request now, you have contractual services, and does that contractual services also include? That's where your budget comes from for rental equipment, or is this a different part of the budget?
From our contractual services, there's 1.5 million there under our highways, and that's for equipment rental and the like. There's also another 1.5 there for the bike, I believe the bicycle lanes that we're looking to contract out. Yes.
Okay, and we're looking to do that in this coming fiscal year?
This fiscal year.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Which we funded a partial part.
Yeah, there was
previously.
a previous appropriation for that.
Okay, so you will be asking for a rollover for that part of the budget?
It'd be in addition to.
Okay.
Right.
Understood. And I've asked you this in previous budget hearings about previous year obligations for overtime pay. I'm looking through it and I see that there's previous year obligations to pay unpaid merit bonuses, but is there still unpaid overtime included in that request?
We paid merit bonuses from 2018 to date. I know that's all paid. On overtime, I don't believe so. Overtime is I think that's by federal law. We've got to pay that. Yeah,
Okay.
so I can double check that, but
If
yeah.
you please can, because I
sure.
have a few constituents who've asked about
Okay.
the overtime pay, so
Sure.
from prior year obligations. Thank you.
Sure.
And then for drug testing, I know that you brought it up. You have this budget for random drug testing, and is that for all employees, or is that just for heavy equipment officers and bus drivers? Because the budget request seems a little small for the amount of employees and the critical work that you do, especially the bus drivers with the children and the heavy equipment operators for the safety of all. So is that just for those two classes of employees, or is that for the entire department?
It's for, what's it called? Test designated positions.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
All right, so for them. All
Yes.
right, thank you very much. And once again, thank you to the entire team and the work that you're doing. We wish you all safety and blessings out there, because we know it's not easy. And thank you, and please let us know how we can continue to support you.
Thank you.
All
Thank you,
right.
Senator.
Thank you. On the merit issue, you said 2018. I think you need to check and make sure it covered anybody that's, I think it's 2011 or 2012 where has not been covered. Just double check anyone else that needs merit that you need to cover. Speaker Therese, do you have any questions for the panel?
Yes, thank you. And great report, thank you. I'm glad to hear that you're being very diligent with your accounting and so that we can get reimbursement. I really appreciate that. And your prompt response. Can I ask, do you think the mayors are satisfied now with your response at this point?
I sure hope so, Madam Speaker. You know, we work very closely with the mayors, and we want to help them as much as possible because they have a job that's at times thankless. You couldn't pay me enough to be a mayor. You just couldn't. But I think, you know, the thing that they've always wanted is some form of heavy equipment for their use. And I think now that they have it at their discretion, at their direction, we haven't had any inquiries, at least I haven't, I don't think Linda has, for assistance from them. We might have a couple roads that they've asked us to assist while they're doing debris cleanup, but for the most part, I think things are going very well.
Okay, that's good to hear. And then you said the parks might be, those parks that you mentioned might be open by this weekend, including the two, Matapang and Ipaw?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay, I understand that. I just want to give a shout out to the kayak and canoe teams who went out and also helped at Matapang, I know for sure. And I know people are very anxious for those parks to be open. The swimming, they're not even allowed to walk through it and go swim or anything. So I appreciate that. I hope those are open. Do those need to be inspected afterward, or they're just ready to go once you pick up the big trees that remain?
Like Ipaw, all the trees should be done by today. So they're going to have to go in, Parks and Rec is going to have to go in and at least cut the grass. It's fairly thick, it's fairly high, but for the most part, it looks ready to use. You just cut the grass and it's ready to go.
Okay, I hope so. And what would you say is your turnover time when you put in a DLAN request? Is that what they're called, DLAN requests? And then when you're able to start that work?
You know, a lot of it, Speaker, depends on the type of request it is. I can tell you right now, we had some, I won't go on record to say which ones, but we had some DLAN requests that I thought were trivial, and I'm being awful kind when I say that. There are some DLAN requests that clearly weren't in the bounds and responsibilities of DPW, so we either had to refer that out or not. But for the most part, I think we handled most of the requests. And debris cleanup, road clearing, erosion, you know, when a road washed out, so we had to go back with base course and regrade the road, things of that nature. Servicing of generators, a lot of it in the beginning was refueling of generators throughout the government sites. And so one lesson we learned at DPW is our fuel truck is, we need a larger one. Yeah, we were literally running that 24/7.
So you handle your own refueling of the generators?
Yeah, we were refilling generators at police precincts.
Well, that's what I'm
public
asking.
health.
Do you have to put in a DLAN request before you even go fill up your truck?
Yes,
And so
ma'am.
how long does that take? Is that what we're waiting for or not necessarily?
No, like the DLAN to refuel, that'll stay, once they list the areas to refuel, that'll stay throughout the disaster time.
I
Yes.
see.
Yeah.
Okay, but their approval of it?
No, it's not long. Usually we deploy once we get it, because we have a rack. Our rack is there 24 hours. So once we get the DLAN and they execute it, minimum is 2 hours wait or 4. But from the beginning when we started, like Vince has said, our capacity of our diesel fuel was only 1,000 gallons. So we were refilling 3 precincts, DOC, DYA. So there was a lag time, right? And so we were able to get diesel down at the port. That helped us to expedite the diesel fuel to our government agencies.
I know, so when you get the DLAN approval, of course, you're fast. But I'm asking of you, when you make the request that you want to go get fuel, how long does that process take to get approval?
Yeah, it's quick.
Okay.
We
Within
have a
hours,
gas card.
within 24 hours, within 12 hours?
The longest we waited probably was 6 hours, but
great.
we get it. The agencies don't wait 24 hours.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Good news. And then, you talked about flooding, and I know, so we have some very serious issues that are like long-term issues, and that's kind of under your purview as well.
Yes.
I know that BSP also has been
Yes, ma'am.
trying to deal with flooding issues in the long term, working with Army Corps and other, but
Correct.
can you just talk maybe about Polaris Point? So what is the long-term solution to that, or do you think you found already one that's workable for the interim?
Well, there's a couple issues with Polaris Point. We know that we're doing a more in-depth assessment and design of that whole Polaris area as part of the DAR-funded roadway program from Naval Station all the way to Camp Blas. I think I mentioned that. It's going to require the replacement of 5 bridges and strengthening of the outer lanes. So in line with that, we've snuck in the Polaris Point issue about it being flooded, and we've got the support also of the military, because that's a major passageway from Naval Station to Camp Blas, Naval Station to Naval Hospital, so on and so forth. So we've kind of elevated the level of the issue there. So there's some schools of thought. Replace the bridge there with larger culverts, dredging a portion of the river out to the ocean. There's also, they're looking at a design that would construct a, what's it called? It's not a ponding basin, but something further up the river that would hold the water before it comes down.
So would you say that these are going to be resolved when you repave that road?
Oh, yes. Oh, that's
That's
the plan.
for sure.
That's the plan.
So
Yeah.
at the longest, it will be resolved when that road is
When
being
that roadway is done,
resolved.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
And then, yeah, I wanted to talk to you generally about the projects that you do for CIP. So you're the CIP, GSA for us,
run
right? Yeah, you
construction,
run
yeah.
all the construction projects, including the specs and the IFBs, like you said.
Yes, ma'am.
So, for example, DOC was in here not too long ago talking about their budget
DOC?
and their plans. Yes, the Department of Corrections and their plans for their new building. Everybody's plans are going through you. What about Department of Education?
No.
Not theirs. Okay, so with the exception of them.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so how long, do you have a backlog in the planning and the IFB preparing stages, or only in the construction stages?
No, I think in the construction stage, let's face it, most of the construction we're doing, they're small. 100,000 here, maybe 200,000 there. So they're small projects. The biggest that we're doing will probably be DOC. Yeah, but they're small, they're controllable.
Oh, so I'm just curious, because there was a time when you didn't even have engineers to do this work, and now it seems like you said, like, what did you say, 45 projects?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and so,
That's a lot.
Are you able to handle that? That's what I'm asking. You have enough engineers
yeah.
that's going?
At this point, we are, and we're always recruiting for engineers. And like I said, the good part about it is the projects are small. A basketball court here,
Okay.
a baseball field, lights down in Santa Rita, things of that nature. And for the larger projects, we try to do like a design build, so that stays with one contractor, and the control is a little bit there.
So what about, like for DOC? They seem to think it's taking a while.
Well, it's the contract's under AG review.
Okay. How is that going? So all your contracts go to AG?
Anything over 500,000, we have to work closely with the AG to get its approval. So it's a process that we have to, it's by law for compliance. So with the RFP for DOC, it's being reviewed with the AG. And he has questions, so we have to go back and look at it.
Okay. And so, back to the flooding. Do you, we're seeing this a lot now in the residential areas, right? And in your building permit process, do you feel like you're able to capture, I think the law requires that they take care of their own runoff. But are you able to regulate that or to control that?
You know, speaking of the 1, 2, 3, the 3 that we've seen so far, you know, these homes are old. They're probably 40, if not 50 years old. And they were built at a time when they had a backyard about as big as this room, and at the end of the backyard was a little creek, say 50 years ago. Well, today with all the runoff and the extreme weather that we've been having, that little creek has now turned into raging waters that's just eaten up their backyard and eroded whatever they had. So that little creek that they used to have in their backyard is now a 20-foot, if not 30-foot deep ravine with waterway at the bottom. And their backyard is gone, and it's gone all the way to the foundation of their house. There's 2 houses that are exactly like that. There's one house in Santa Rita that the river is about 50 feet away from their foundation, but that's only because they've got mango trees that are holding the soil together. They already lost 1 mango tree. Then there's others that they're still 30, 40, 50 feet away from the house.
All right, what about the cases where the runoff is coming from a new house? You know, a new house is built, runoff comes off to the adjacent lot, then it goes to the adjacent lot. Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Are you able to stop this in the building permit phase?
Yeah. You know, the subdivision law requires that if, let me see if I hope I get it right, 6 or more, you have to have a ponding basin. You have to contain your water.
Right.
So what we're seeing and what we're trying to control is the act of building 2 homes.
Right, 1 by 1.
And 2
yeah.
and 2 and 2, right?
Yes.
Right. So that's, I don't know how we can close the loophole on that.
Do you enforce, or is there a rule that you are enforcing regarding if I'm going to build a house, do I have to control my own runoff?
Individual homes, no.
No.
That's why they do
So maybe that's the
2
issue.
at a time, yeah.
Yeah, so they're able to run it off to the adjacent property, unknown, when the adjacent property's not paying attention, and then it goes off to the adjacent property. Yeah, what do you do in those situations when they complain?
Yeah. And then to add to that also, Madam Speaker, is once one resident sees a little bit of flooding here, they'll start fencing themselves.
Right.
And then the other individual will start fencing themselves. So you have 5 fences in a cul-de-sac, and the cul-de-sac is flooded.
Yeah.
And nobody can get into or out of their house.
That's why I'm asking you,
Right.
you know, these things are just going to compound. Is
Right.
there a plan or?
And so what we've had to do is we've had to go in there on the easement and build these trenchments.
So that's the solution, pretty much?
Filtration chambers,
All right.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, what about, are you working on building a shelter, a new shelter? A homeless shelter? Or reconfiguring any buildings? Is that one of the 45 projects that you're working on?
No, I think there was one in Antigua that was that's being done by the National Guard,
National Guard?
I believe, yes.
So none of that goes through you?
Did that go through?
So the intent was we were going to go through a bidding procedure. So we did the design and the scope of work based on building code requirements. Because the cost was overrun, they activated the National Guard to follow the scope of work, the construction, to renovate using our building code requirements. Yeah.
So you did the scope, and they're the contractors?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
They're
All
the
right,
ones.
fine.
So our engineers are doing the construction
Yeah.
inspection based on the scope of work that we
Okay.
provided to the Guard.
All right. Okay, great. Just want to know, yeah, so how many shelters are you working on? That would be one that you've involved with. Any others? That's the only one? Okay. That looks like a DOI grant, and it's only, I can't see the number of people it's going to serve. 17 available units only.
That's about right, sounds about right.
All right. The reason I'm asking, because I think we have an overwhelming need in that. Okay. And then the road, just one more question. The road, you've completed Route 1 repaving. Remember, you were going to do 1 lane to make it ready to handle heavy trucks? And that
That-
way we were going to be able to, I don't know, lessen the fees for heavy trucks or?
That's the major DAR project, Department of Defense project, from Naval Station all the way to Camp Blas. That would harden the outer lanes of Marine Drive. An assessment is still being done, but preliminary information tells us that portions of Marine Drive, to include the one that we just paved, will be able to handle the 200,000 plus pounds of equipment, supplies that the military plans to bring all the way up to Camp Blas.
All right, the last time you reported was from, that you were doing the horse and cow. I mean, is that part, the horse and
Yes,
cow road?
yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
so I thought you did this. Yeah, we were all closed down for so long, right? That
Yes,
lane?
Right. Yeah,
So how
that's already
far are
done.
we done? And then you need to do going south still?
Right, yes, ma'am.
All right, so you're done about to Agana?
It will pass through Agana, Assen, PD.
No, are you already completed to Agana from Camp Blas to Agana? Or not yet?
I'm sorry.
How far have you completed
The construction or the assessment?
the construction?
No.
None?
None.
Okay.
None at all.
All right
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
Okay, so your
Yes, ma'am.
assessment saying that your work,
Yeah, they're doing, it's called the under pavement retrofit,
all right.
right, of Marine
right.
Drive.
Thank you for your efforts with the bus drivers. I appreciate that, the extra precautions that you're
Yes, ma'am.
taking and the training for all of your employees all across the board. Always important. So, and thank you for all your work. Please extend our thanks to all of your team for their immediate response. I think it was very noticeable. The main thoroughfares were cleared, as you said, day one.
Thank you.
Right next day. That was very obvious. I think, yeah, so thank you again.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senator Brown?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Certainly good afternoon to
Thank you. Good
our
afternoon.
director and deputy. I think we all recognize the hard work and efforts of your employees at DPW in helping our island recover from the storm, and I know it's much appreciated. In addressing the budget, I was just looking at your staffing pattern. You have 6 unclassified indicated. Who are unclassified besides you and your deputy in your department?
Secretary, myself, deputy, secretary. Who else do we have? Yeah. We have one at Federal Highway and one at CIP. What did we list? 6 there?
That's
think
what's
I-
indicated for 2024.
Oh, and then we had another SPC, but he just resigned. So we have 5.
And what are the intents of those? I mean, I understand yourself, your deputy, maybe even your secretary,
Secretary,
but
yeah. We have an SPC.
what is the intent with the other unclassified?
Okay, we have a SPC under Federal Highways. This individual is being trained to do contracts and contract management for all the road projects out there, to handle specifically the road striping and marking.
Okay, and is the intent to keep that position unclassified? I'm just a little concerned, because in some other agencies and departments, we have a considerable increase of unclassified employees that are assuming the positions of classified employees, which should not be the case.
Understand?
So
Yeah.
I mean, we just want to make sure there's no abuse there.
No, we plan to get that classified. And then,
I did notice your striping projects that are going on around the island. I think that's much appreciated in terms of, especially for visibility in the evenings and heavy rain that's going on. You have a private contractor doing that
yes,
work?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And what are the most recent areas? I noticed Route 8 recently.
Route
being
8 is just
restriped.
about ready to be wrapped up. They
Okay.
did the striping, so now they're doing a lot of the turns and whatever. Unfortunately, there's only one. There's
Right,
only one
okay.
company. As a matter of fact, I think I mentioned Hawaiian Rock created their own striping division. Yeah, so there's only one company. So we put out a task order for Route Tuman? No. No. It was from Anigua all the way to Naval Station, Sumai Road, Assen PD. And we put out the task order, and the company came back to us saying, I believe she needs an additional funding because the price of paint just went up from her original quote. So we're
Working those.
kind of in negotiations.
And then do you have an agenda on what you plan after that? Because there's many areas, particularly Harmon, for example. I mean, the road is still in fairly good quality, but the striping and visibility is just not there.
Yes.
And, you know, for those of us that drive, perhaps we know where to turn left or right, but we have visitors and others that come, you know, for short periods of time, and they have, you know, like they'll go to Kapua intersection and turn left. I mean, there's no, you know, arrows or visible signs that they, and even if there are, sometimes people don't pay attention, but to the best of our ability to provide.
Yeah, so after we do that Route 1, we're hoping that by the time that's done, the safety improvements on Route 10 are done, the actual cutouts, the pavement. Then we'll go to Route 10, and then from on Marine Drive from Micronesia Mall to front gate of Anderson.
Okay. Is that locally, federally funded?
Some of it is local. Some of it we use the village streets. Some of it we use our ARP funding.
Also, of course, in the course of the typhoon, we lost a lot of signage, stop signs, things of that nature. Are you're, I assume, already doing your inventory assessment, and are we
Yes.
going to be able to claim that for replacement?
Yes,
Because, I mean,
ma'am.
those things are very valuable for people to, not just for road safety, but again, for our visitors and others coming to the island.
Yeah. Well, preliminary estimate is, of what we lost is about 500,000.
And so
And,
you're
you know,
working on that so
yes,
that
ma'am.
you can
Yes, ma'am.
be able to replace them?
Yes, ma'am. We're going to have to outsource that. It's going to take a while, but,
Understand.
you know,
With regards to Federal Highway, what are the key projects currently that Federal Highway is working on that you're funding and operating right now? I mean, we see the work happening down in Santa Rita on Route 5. What are your other projects?
there's Route 5, Route 14B, the road from Seventh-day Adventist Clinic
Yes.
down to EPAL. That's going to have a little bit of a delay. When they started to excavate the east side, going down on the right side, when they started to excavate that for the retaining wall, they uncovered, it was backfill. It wasn't solid cliff line. And so they found bottles and pipes and who knows what else in there. So they had to do a redesign. And so that's going to cost quite a bit more, both in time and money. And the retaining wall went from, I believe, from 10 feet to 20 feet. So they got to go further down. So that's going to cause maybe another 4, if not 5-month delay. But, you know, it's going to get done
It's
right.
better to get addressed.
Yes.
The original plans include for a sidewalk in that area.
Yes,
We have a
ma'am.
lot of visitors, tourists that, you know, will walk up that because it's a shorter route.
Yes, ma'am.
So that will include the
Include a
sidewalk
sidewalk
still as well.
and a rail.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a very unsafe. I know you're very familiar with that area.
Thank you, Senator.
The infiltration chambers you mentioned with regards to dealing with the runoff, I know that the original plans on that particular route had to deal with constructing infiltration chambers simply because of limited space to put a ponding basin. What are you going to do if you're continuing to build these? Because, I mean, we are currently not even addressing the maintenance of ponding basins around the island. How are you going to address a little more sophistication of maintaining these infiltration chambers, which again, you know, once we build it,
That just adds to
we
our...
can't just leave it alone and then, you know, eventually the storm comes and we're back where we started because they're not being maintained.
Understand, you know, we're just going to have to put that on the board and do our best to maintain it, no different than the ponding basins. With, specifically on EPAL Road, that one flood area just past Seventh-day Adventist, once we get to that, we'll take that water and take it all the way down to that huge ponding basin that never gets water for the most part, right in front of the Hilton Hotel. That's why, if you notice, we had that cleared, you know, ready for the construction.
How about the stretch of road from Route 1 to SDA? That was also part of the original design. Then you're going to have a lot of work there of, you know, underground lines and there. I know that was very complicated. Is that next on the agenda?
That's phase 2, yes.
Okay. And
Yes.
what other, are there any other federally funded projects right now that or in the works that we'll see in the next year or two?
Currently, you're seeing work on Route 14 from ITC, even further in ITC. The GPA substation, that'll take us all the way up to the rotunda. The rotunda is going to be redone and striped so that it works the right way, and then all the way down to the Hilton. So they've already started from the Hilton intersection paving up, and they're doing spot additional repairs on Route 14.
And how about the status of your asphalt testing? Because I noticed areas that we had paved, like Route 10, Route 4 intersection, they're already,
Route 10,
you already
4.
see the indentions all over the place. It's a bumpy ride already. Is that going to be looked at? Because I know we had an issue with regards to the
Route
mix.
10 up by Chalampago? On
Yeah,
the
Route
top,
4,
no?
Route 10, yes.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, that'll be taken care of.
Even up in Barragata, Route 8, Route 10 intersection, you also see that rippling in the asphalt already.
At the tri-intersection?
I've noticed that there, yes.
Oh, I got to see that, because I live there, and I am real particular about that, but we'll check that, but that really shouldn't be rippling, yeah.
Well,
But I'll
I
check
think
it.
we just wanna make
Route 4
sure-
and 10, for sure.
We just want to make sure, again, we
Yes,
don't have
ma'am.
issues with the top layer, because again, I mean, like in Route 4, I mean, Route 8, Route 10, I mean, that, you know, underneath all that, you got a thick layer of concrete, and, you know, you have the asphalt sitting on top.
Yes.
But definitely, the Route 4, Route 10 intersection, you really notice the rippling that has happened. And it was always our hope that that would not be the case until, you know, it's time to come back and resurface.
That's part of our road pavement program for all of Route 10.
With your bus operations, I did send you a letter prior to the typhoon. I understand because of the typhoon, you probably have not been able to respond to it. I hope you do in the next couple of weeks on bus operations, because I appreciate the fact you're saying you're having your supervisors now check the bus drivers, but the fact that, you know, from the descriptions that were provided, it sounded like the one bus driver that you had down at the Southern High School seemed to be well into extensive drug use, to be at least looking at the side effects and symptoms that were described.
Yes.
In that particular arrest of that bus driver, that slipped through somebody's fingers. So I hope that we do, and probably once I get information from you, would want an oversight hearing held, because I think we want to ensure the safety of our children. I
Sure.
had the issue during my time as well of having bus drivers that were on crystal meth and other illegal drugs. Of course, we addressed immediate termination, and we did maintain regular drug testing. It's how we also found
doing,
ahead of time that we had bus drivers that were on illegal substances, but it's a perennial problem. I think we want to make sure we can give our people some comfort, but it seems that, you know, it continues.
You won't get any argument from me, Senator. I am, and not only did we counsel the supervisor, but also the other drivers that were there the same morning. How did you let an individual?
Well, I think there are people turning blind eyes, because
Yeah, and we can't
that
do
should
that.
not have slipped through. I mean, a lot of those symptoms are very visible, and for the supervisors, and you have the supervisors at the substations, you know, they're supposed to go out and check their guys and be out there in the morning, you know, if it's 4 a.m. before they go out and do their routes to make sure that's happening. Because even the morning the other bus driver had that accident up in Cross Island next to the cemetery, I'm driving by, seeing the bus stopped and 2 police officers. And
Yes.
you know, what's the deal there?
I
Again,
understand.
another situation. I mean, they might not be all on illegal drugs, but they may be drinking heavily. And then
Yes, ma'am.
we don't want our children to be in buses that, you know, they have no sense of safety. We don't have any comfort with that. So I hope you will continue to follow up. I'm looking forward to a formal response on the request
ma'am.
that I had made, so that from there we can determine where to go. But I think we should hold a hearing specifically with regards to that. The issue has come up as well with regards to the possibility with Department of Education, because of all these issues with the schools, and we're hopeful, of course, to the best of their ability, they're going to be able to get as many schools operational in about a month or so, a month and a half as we're heading into the new school year. But there's also a possibility if they're not. I mean, they're in discussions about having additional double classes and double sessions within schools, which would have a significant impact on your ability already. I know you're already doing it for one particular
Run.
school, but if that gets expanded, I mean, with your existing bus fleet and bus drivers, I think that's going to really require some creative planning on how you can actually facilitate. Have they been in discussions with you about that possibility?
No, Senator, look at my face.
Okay.
That's news to me. And if that's so, well,
It may not be a bad idea. Maybe if they're not knocking on your door, maybe you knock on theirs, because I'd
We
hate to
will
see
knock
a
on them
last-minute
first thing in the
request,
morning.
which is not uncommon, right before school opens, to come knocking on your door and saying, hey, this is what we need, and you may not be able to, just
Right.
because of your fiscal infrastructure, accommodate that. So I think
Absolutely.
it's important those discussions, you know, happen hand in hand just for safety issues. Getting back again to the ponding basins, I've just noticed, do you have a schedule for that? Because I noticed a number of the ponding basins have not been maintained at all. I mean, the Tangantongan I can use for barbecue now.
Yes,
You know, it's,
Senator, we are way behind the ball on ponding basins. You know, we think for the most part, we've got control of the major routed roads. If you notice, we started, as I mentioned earlier, we're starting to use pesticides on the guardrails, so that's really giving us quite a bit of time to move on to other things. Now we have Typhoon Mawar, and that's just killing us. Like I said, this debris pickup could take another 8 months, could take another 10 months. So, you know, we just have to. I don't have an answer for ponding basins right now, because right now we're concentrating on debris pickup. But certainly, you know, once we kind of stabilize, we're going to have to go in and. I've seen the ponding basins. I know
and
exactly
this is even
what you're talking about.
It's prior to the typhoon. I mean, this is becoming, again, another perennial problem. And then when we have heavy rains, we end up with more flooding, and it defeats the purpose.
Yeah. Fortunately, I haven't seen, at least from the typhoon, the only ponding basin that I saw that really overflowed was the one on Camp Blas. We passed by the day after the typhoon, and their ponding basin was overflowed. So I know they're going to have to do some
Maybe somebody
re-engineering on that one.
miscalculated.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
With regards to road maintenance, do you have contracts on the main highways, or I mean, I know you don't have an extensively large road maintenance crew to do all the grass cutting. Do you have a private company? Do you contract out a private company?
We have a private company doing Route 3 from Marine Drive all the way to, I think, past Camp Blas, all of Route 3. We have that. And then we have, I think, from Micronesia Mall through Dededo all the way to Anderson.
Is there any other work being done? How are the main roads being addressed throughout the island and the different villages?
That would be DPW and the mayors.
And so you don't have any other private contractors doing any work aside from the ones you've listed?
That's all we have. Yeah.
Does DPW take care of the frontage of the routed roads, and it's the mayors that take care of all the secondary roads?
DPW handles the routed roads. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm just noticing in certain
That's
areas
all
it's
we
just not
have.
happening.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no grass cutting happening at all in some areas.
GVB at one point had, they had contracts to do a good portion of Marine Drive, and I guess they decided they're not in the grass cutting business. And so, you know, they gave us a couple months so that we can go and start procuring. But it's also a matter of vendors that are out there. There's not too many of them that are out there that can handle that kind of load.
Okay, well, maybe we have a future job opportunity. Life after. I don't have too many more questions. Again, there's other areas. I hope we have another either a roundtable or an oversight to discuss those issues, especially bus operations, on another day. But you know, Mr. Chair, I do have to say, looking at the budget for DPW, it's really not that large. It's no different than when I was there almost 12, 14 years ago. So I don't think it's an unreasonable request to support your budget request, but I just want to note it hasn't grown much. You know,
We're spending the money
mandate that DPW has. But with that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Mr.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator Brown. There being no other questions, you know, I'll cap it with, if we can find more money for you guys, we would figure out a way how to get it to you, because of the heavy equipment issue. And maybe even starting your own road marking section, so that we don't have to turn to a vendor, and when you need to get it done, you can get it done. Okay, with that, I want to thank you for attending, Mr. Arreola and Ms. Banas, and for providing feedback and suggestions. The Department of Public Works budget hearing is now adjourned. The time now is 3:32. Thank you for coming, and please thank your employees, and may God bless them. Be safe. Thank you.